Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Let's Chat. Today's episode, we'll talk about our first gaming system. We have our co host, Catnip, as well as our guest, Milk. Say hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Today our stream is gonna be talking about video games, maybe old ones, new ones. It's going we're gonna try and get into the retros, but yeah, some people may have not had retros, but we're gonna keep mindful of everybody. So, Armored Daughter, take it away. What was your first gaming system?
Oh boy, this is going to age the living crap out of me, so don't laugh at me, everyone. But I
Keep the
fondly remember
dinosaur.
my days playing the NES system, Paperboy, Mike Tyson's Knockout, which embarrassingly, I think I never got past the third fighter. That is my first gaming system, and the best part about it just brings back memories. The idea of having to blow a cartridge and sticking it in before you can even play anything. How about y'all?
No, you could go.
Oh, me. Well, I'd say, I guess a long time ago in elementary school, I was a kid, bringing in the, what was it, Game Boy system. Everyone had a Game Boy. I didn't have a Game Boy. I finally had a Game Boy, brought it to school, and got in trouble. And so I guess I wasn't good enough at sneaking it in, so I always get it taken away. But yes, it was a Game Boy. It was a blue one, too.
Oh, those colored Game Boys were awesome. I
I like the
remember
clear
seeing
ones.
those at school and totally hating on the few folks who had the non-gray Game Boys.
I know, right? More expensive.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't there like a Game Boy that flipped open or whatever? It's kind of like a flip phone, but like a Game Boy. I can't
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
like the first Game Boy Advanced. That was the first one that would flip like an old Nokia flip phone. Those are pretty
Okay,
wild too.
yeah. That was the one I had. And I
That's so.
had Pokemon, whatever the Charizard one is.
Huh?
Pokemon Fire, was it?
It was Fire Red. Yeah.
Yeah, Fire Red.
Oh my god, that's such an old game. Um. So my first gaming system that I remember is our Nintendo 64. It's between that or a Game Boy. I don't remember which one I had first because I was so little. But I love that Nintendo 64. We still have it. I cleaned it so well, so it looks like it's pristine. It came out of the box, and I take good care of it still.
Aw.
Yeah.
Uh, I can attest to that. We have a bunch of these systems hung up, wrapped up, and put away in a box. So that way, when we have the ability to have a nice little gaming room, we can go all the way back. I think to the Super Nintendo. I think we have a Super Nintendo still, but
We
it's been
do
ages
not.
since. No,
Yeah,
oh,
we
okay,
do
so
not.
that's gone.
Wait.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have some retro hunting to do because I still want SNES and an NES and possibly maybe an Atari. I want to get my hands on some of those games.
Not a Dreamcast, nothing like that.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned the Dreamcast because we're gonna be talking about certain systems later on. But I really like the Dreamcast a lot. I remember when it first came out. I know one of the worst things about it though was the lack of software. There just wasn't a lot of engaging games that Sega was releasing with the Dreamcast, and a lot of the good games didn't come out until it was already decided that it was a dead system.
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up. We had this like even what's that? Nickelodeon tried to get into the gaming world by doing this little like it looked like a joystick, but it was like SpongeBob, and his nose was a joystick, and it had like a bunch of these little games that were like super fun to play constantly, and it was like constantly this all these like companies like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, all of them trying to get into the video game business when it all first started.
And I think that's oh man, there's a couple of interesting websites that did some pretty cool stuff with games. Most of it though was like attached to TV shows or like you're mentioning like networks like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, which unfortunately for them it didn't
Yeah.
really go off too hard. But since we all identified our first gaming systems, do you guys want to talk about your favorite retro system and why? Whether it be the GameCube, the N64, Dreamcast, as Catnip mentioned, or SNES. Is there one that captures your heart and you kind of look back fondly at?
Can we consider like the very first Xbox, the very first PlayStation? Those two as well. They're retro now too.
No, they're
By
retro, but for you, for any of you two, can you identify one system that is at least 10, 20 years old that you can think back and say, God, I have a lot of good memories with it.
Nintendo DS count?
Yes.
It does.
Why not? I think it came out. I think the first DS came out.
Well, it had the Game Boy attached to it.
2006.
Remember? That's why I think it can be considered retro because it did have the Game Boy attached to it, the Game Boy compartment.
Okay. Good point there. Okay. Okay, so Milk, you're picking the Nintendo DS, right?
I do remember now that Catnip just reminded me that it does have the Game Boy game attachment on the bottom. My sister had a pink one. I'm like vividly remembering it now. It's like coming to me in waves. I don't know why.
I'll be honest with you. I still have a black one with the old Nintendo Game Boy Advance cartridge on the bottom where you attach them, and that's how I used to play old what was it, Fire Red, Pokemon Fire Red, and all that. That was amazing. Now with the new DSs, before they discontinued them for the Switch, you couldn't put in the old advanced system, so you're hoping to try to move your Pokemon from your old Game Boys to Game Boy Advance cartridge, and then from there to the DS games, and then now I don't know where you put them right now, but I've seen people in Catnip. You've seen people too who've done this, where they'll hop around between all those systems, moving Pokemon they've had for like 15, 20 years.
I was one of those people, believe it or not.
I didn't want to put you out there.
Yeah, I have.
All right, how about you, Catnip? Give me a old retro gaming system that you remember fondly.
Well, I do want to hear Milk's story about it and why, like, what their favorite game was about it on it too.
It's slowly coming back, but I do remember a game called Yu-Gi-Oh! Nightmare Troubadour. Oh yeah, we also had GameFly at the time, and I'd ordered weird games off it. And there was this one that was kind of like a Winx Club spin-off about these weird spinning fairies, and they also had toys at McDonald's that advertised them.
You know what?
It was incredibly boring.
Yeah, I totally remember the old McDonald's and Burger King what was it, promotions for video games, especially Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, like they had the old gold-plated Pokemon cards. One of our listeners right now, Mr. Corruption, their first console was the N64, which is one of my personal favorites. What do y'all think about that system?
You know what?
Never touched it. Now it's like oh man, this is like pleb, but I just never played. Not GameCube, not the N64. Literally only I just had my Game Boy and the DS.
Oh, okay, that's unfortunate. You know what? I love the N64. I know a lot of people gave it a lot of crap because of the remote, but Milk, if you ever want to like blow your mind away, play the N64. We have one and spare parts for it to keep it going forever. But the way the remote, it's the most, I mean, you can Google it later, but the remote for the N64 is like, it's like a Frankenstein remote.
Yeah, go Google it. Like, it's really awful. It was so hard, especially when I was little.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think it's, I
was a child when I had it and I played it, and I had tiny hands, especially being a female, so it was awful to hold a controller, and it hurt.
Well, it's a fork. I looked it up. It's a fork. That's an eating utensil, not a controller.
What, y'all don't like the idea of having something being more focused? You can play with it. You can eat with it. You can possibly create some sort of summoning circle with it by its weird geometry. Yeah, there you
could have knocked somebody out with those the cartridges that goes in the bottom of the thing that held like your all your save stuff, your save spaces and stuff like that.
A multi-purpose controller.
It really was. was.
Honestly,
Yeah,
if you got a couple of them and put them in a sock, you can whack someone like it's a mace. Those things are pretty heavy. But you know what?
yeah.
That's why they still work well. We can still fire up our N64 right now, and we do every about year or so. And we'll play Turok Rage Wars or random game, and this still works perfectly.
Hmm.
My God. Um, so my favorite game and system is the Nintendo 64, and that's because I grew up with it, and we still have it to this day. Like I desire to be buried with my Nintendo 64 and my original copy of Majora's Mask, like the one with the holographic on there that it
We still
changes.
have it.
Yeah, we still have it, and I really liked Majora's Mask because it was like the only Legend of Zelda game that's not really a Legend of Zelda game, and it was about like you had 3 days to do like everything, and you constantly had to rewind time and to continue going on because you couldn't do everything in the 3 days unless you're like a hardcore speedrunner. But it was just so different, and even the theories that people come up with it are like so interesting, and I just think it's one of the most brilliant games that Nintendo has ever came up with, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of crap for that, but I'm okay with it.
It's okay. We talk freely here, and I absolutely agree with you, Catnip. I love the N64. For a lot of trivia folks out there, if it wasn't for the N64 and the accompanying game GoldenEye, you wouldn't have games like Call of Duty, right? First person shooters. Between GoldenEye and Turok Rage Wars, those are the two
OG
grandparents of
ones.
the. Yeah, those are the two that set the standard for first person shooters the way they work currently. See, we have another viewer, Kobe iOS. I asked them what retro system do they remember fondly, and this is their answer. What do y'all think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kobe. I know Milk mentioned earlier as well that they picked the Game Boy 2. I don't know about you guys, but I remember a few times where people would get their Game Boys taken up, and that was like the end of the world.
You
Yep,
know what?
that was me hiding under the covers with my Game Boy. It got taken away. Nope.
Or worse yet, when you're at school and you're having to hide it
Uh,
in your cubby or your desk cubby, hoping to God that it wouldn't get loud or the teacher would see it.
Oh my god, yeah. The sound, my finger always on the right side. Was the right side that had the volume control? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
you remember that?
Yeah, it's muscle memory, right? They're just
Yeah, it's
sometimes
coming to me. It's coming to me in waves. It's so weird.
there sometimes where I will pick something up I haven't touched in years, and it just comes right back to me how to use it. And definitely, video games is one of them. The Wii, especially, and I was playing the Super Nintendo on the Switch, the port that they have on the Switch, the NES port, and I still remember how to speed run through Mario 3, which is kind of nice.
Um, so this is also a part of the whole retro topic. How do you guys feel about remakes of old games?
Ooh, jump into the controversy. You know what? Since Milk, you're our guest, I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
I have to think of one first. Or
I'm gonna
well,
cancel.
hmm.
They've been doing like even Super Mario 64 and a bunch of these old like games
Oh,
that
I
we can't
love
remember.
Super Mario 64. I played the one. What was it? Recent. So I played Super Mario 64, but it was the one that had Luigi as a playable character in it. Then recently, I actually played it on my friend's Switch, and he didn't know that like you could get Luigi, and so I was so excited for him to finally get to the stupid Boo Castle and get Luigi because. Luigi has that cool backflip and then the windmill thing, and you just that's freaking hacks right there. And so I wanted him to get the hacks and show off, but sadly it didn't have Luigi as a character, so I that's a point for the old Super Mario 64 for me.
I like that. How about you, Catnip?
Um, you know what? It depends on the game. If they do it right, then I think it's totally okay because some retro classics now are the Resident Evil games and they've been recently remade. I'm gonna be real here with a lot of people. I did not like the third remake. Resident Evil 3 remake was garbage to me. It was like cool, but
Ooh,
it feels so rushed and it feels so just gross to me. I felt like they could have done so much more or expanded the game. It felt like you could play and beat that game in like an hour or two, and that sucked.
oof, that is a spicy take. I like it. You know what? I'm glad you brought up the Resident Evil remake. I agree with you on that. I enjoyed the first two immensely. The third, the third has issues. You're right. It feels like they kind of shot it out the cannon before the ball was ready to rock and roll. Right. The first Resident Evil remake as well as the second one, I thought they were fun. It showed what a remake could be if done right. Upgraded
Yeah,
graphics, you improved on the game, but most importantly, you're able to bring a game to a new system, i.e. the PC through Steam or through another platform. So that way, people aren't stuck, hoping that their PS1s could still burn up and make make something run.
yeah.
Here
I
we actually have a comment from one of our viewers. I'll show it right now. And this is what Kobe's got to say. Quote, the only remasters I like is the remastered games that only change graphics as in modern warfare. And I think that's pretty much what Resident Evil 1 and 2 did. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, Catnip, but I don't believe or Milk. I don't believe that they really changed that much in the actual gameplay for those
I
two games, right?
I think they did a lot of things more different because they have like new cutscenes and they it's like an they felt more like homages to the first 2 and 3 honestly more than a remake per se.
Okay, interesting. All right. Now, as I mentioned, I like the idea of remaking graphics, not so much the game nor the format of the game. I'm not
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. Graphics, yes. Make it
definitely
beautiful. Make it modern. Make it satisfying.
there. You go. Well, also most importantly, don't let them get lost. Right. That's why emulators and ROMs had such a huge amount of demand because these companies like Nintendo, Sony, they were
uh,
leaving old, beautiful games that that people wanted and desired to be able to play in the dust, and there was no way to bring them into a new system until recently with Nintendo, where you can play some of their old libraries but not everything. So
yeah.
I'm with you on that.
That's kind of what Lionhead Studios did to Fable 2 and 3, and you can't play them unless it's like on the Xbox or whatever. But I really want to play them on my computer and just enjoy my days of Fable of kicking chickens and hiring prostitutes.
I'm not going to mention I'm not going to mention how many times women tried to divorce me in Fable and they ended up winning.
In a ditch.
I
Oh
I,
my
I
god.
I don't take rejection very well. I'll be honest.
Yeah, Fable was one of the best games, and it's not considered a classic because it's like 10 years old now, and it's very
Yeah,
disappointing.
it sucks because I'm kind of in my mid 30s, and when I hear classics already, I'm like, okay, screw you guys. That was gonna be a little bit more time for you. Why Loved would be described as that, but whatever, fuck you. We actually have an interesting comment from Kobe iOS. I'll put it up right now. Milk, since you're our guest, do you have an
Mm.
opinion on this?
You guys feel about the shortage of parts for new consoles. I don't have too much experience with the new consoles. Honestly, I actually just recently bought a Switch off my friend for like 150, which is really a steal. So I don't know if I
Jeez.
have enough experience to answer that.
Well,
Um,
mentioning how much you just paid for that Switch, you felt the bite of the shortage of parts because the used Switch, I remember like two when they first came out was less than one hundred
a
and fifty
lot.
dollars.
Yeah. Um, when I got my Switch, it was like 300, something like that. But I also got it with the game, I believe. I can't remember.
You
I
got
was
like
gonna
a
get like
deluxe, if I remember correctly.
I was gonna get the deluxe version of the Super Smash Bros. But they give you like whenever they do like deluxe bundles with the Switches, they're constantly like special limited edition designs. And I really wanted the Smash one, but that was like $500. So I just sat with a regular one, got the game, and called it a day. And I was very upset.
No, I totally feel you. You know what? And I have a really strong opinion about this Kobe iOS about the parts shortage. It sucks because I know a lot of people that have been trying to get their hands on PS5s, especially, and having to go through scalpers in order to
Yeah.
obtain those consoles at a timely basis because there's not enough parts to go around to create them, and it doesn't just suck
Yeah.
for the buyer, but it sucks for fans because then we end up having to spend on a premium on a system that honestly, if you were to invest in a gaming PC, your gaming PC would give you a better return.
Yeah.
Um, and I think honestly, because of the shortage of parts and the difficulty of getting consoles, you're going to see more people migrating to PC gaming in general. And you see Xbox seeing this with their Game Pass and introducing their exclusives both on their official Game Pass as well as their Xbox console simultaneously because they know what's coming. Consoles are having a very difficult time keeping up with the power of gaming PCs, especially when you put cost into it, right?
And having
For
things like emulators and stuff like that also
Oh
is like
yeah,
this huge bonus.
I mean, I know this is not the best thing, but I've known people who, within a few months of the PS5 coming out, found emulators for the PS5 and ran it on their computer. Um, Again, because the companies couldn't match the demand of the customers, and people, what life finds a way. People found a way to get the product they wanted.
Mm.
All
I
right,
still
well,
enjoy PC gaming a lot. I've always been a PC gamer,
Yeah.
especially when I was little too.
Me and
okay,
Emil
well,
have actually been
since
playing Dead Island, which is now considered a classic as well.
you know what,
Um,
stop with that, or I'm gonna stab you. I mean, I will have to use words in a very sharp manner, calling it a
Ooh.
when a
classic.
game hits like
Pointy
10
like the
years
console, like
when
the
a game hits
fork.
Exactly.
like 10 or 20 years old, it's now considered like classic. So it's like classic for our generation since me and Milk are in the same age group. So
Is it? I don't know
Okay.
if I would consider PC as like retro, but you know,
no,
you have
but
your
Dead
Spyro
Island
games, your Clue finders,
Well,
you
I mean,
know,
if you're talking
Rita
about game,
Rabbit.
if you're talking about games like Myst or Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, I mean, God's sakes, Oregon Trail, those are
Oh
super
well,
retro games.
I love Oregon Trail. I love Oregon Trail.
I found a browser extension that lets you play it online, and I still dive dysentery.
Online. Oh my
It
god,
is
that's so much
awesome.
death.
I've never made it to Oregon. I've
I
always
always get scurvy.
you get yeah. I shit to death. That's basically what dysentery is. You poop to death. So that's what
Wait, you
happens to
shit
me.
yourself to death?
Yeah, you dehydrate. Yeah,
Okay, I guess I thought scurvy was bad, but
I don't
you
know.
take the cake.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't that I don't think that'd be a fun way to bite it, right? You just poop 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 gone because
oh
your
my
body.
god.
That sounds pretty intense, and I'm kind of down for it.
I
I
bet
mean,
you.
what was it? I didn't have a lot of, well, like I had a limited amount of games, mostly learning games because my mom and family was they were very strong against any sort of violence. So even me and Oregon Trail shooting the buffalo, I couldn't tell my mom about that, but she found out, and so you know you have to use a justification that you know you shoot the buffaloes and you eat the meat because she really hates guns. But that might
Oh,
impact
okay.
why I didn't have a lot of, I don't know, a lot of these types of games or consoles.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're discussing it. Let's stay on the same topic, and let me ask. Oh, let's ask the question: what is the earliest PC game that you remember very fondly? I'll start with
No.
Final Fantasy VIII.
PC gaming?
Yeah, yet the first PC game that you remember fondly, for myself, it is definitely going to be Final Fantasy VIII. That is the game. It came with, I believe, 5 CDs that
Oh
you
my
had to
god,
interchange as you played the game, right?
that
And
was online.
there was nothing online. I mean, these were computers with like maybe like 12 megabytes of RAM, no disk space.
Um,
That was
Oh my
during the
god.
time of AOL, right? You had
Oh my
54
gosh, yeah, the
kilobytes of
noises.
speed. Yes, I love Final Fantasy, and you know what? Because of that, I even have a copy of it on my Steam. Because if I go back into my old box case, I think I still own these CDs that I originally bought almost 20 something years ago. Yeah, it's gonna be about 20 years now that I purchased it at a store. I still have like the full CD set where it has the pockets where you put your CDs in, the booklet that comes with the game, all that.
Huh.
God.
All right, who's next? Who's going to
I feel like I'm
give me a
talking to a
good memory?
dinosaur.
I
Oh
have like a
yes,
huge list.
I'm a huge dinosaur. Brar. But seriously,
Oh, I enjoy dinosaurs.
All right, Catnip, you volunteered. What is your first gaming, first PC game that you remember fondly, and why?
I can't remember all the way back, but one that I fondly remember, I think was Sims. I think it was like Sims 3 with the werewolves and stuff like that. That was really fun, honestly. Um, it was Sims Supernatural. I know I played like games before that, but I just can't really remember them, honestly. But I really did. I think it was like Sims 2 or 3 Supernatural, and you were able to do like genies and werewolves and vampires and fairies and ghosts and stuff like that. And it was I really like adore the Sims games, even though honestly, fuck EA for their microtransactions.
Well, you know what? I remember you playing Sims. I think roommates or something. Like there was
Yeah,
there was
somebody
a
stole my CD, and I was really
yeah.
upset.
Oh man, yeah, and you both spent hours playing Sims. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
was pretty
I fucking
intense.
I recorded like maybe 120 hours into it, maybe more than that.
Oh, that's respectable. That's good stuff right there, though. Like you're putting some good time in there.
Yeah, I miss it so much.
All right, Milk. Can you give me an answer?
I got like a bunch. So there's Freddy Fish, Spy Fox, Where in the World's Carmen San Diego, Land Before Time Games, Clue Finders, and Pajama Sam.
All right. If you guys were able to all write that down very quickly, as I have been trying to, that's a lot of good games. I
It
know.
is also
I played Carmen San Diego. That was the
they
shit.
did. Oh yeah, and also Snood. If I have to go super classic, I think there's a game called Snood.
Now I'm after the show. You're making me Google so much now. So just letting you
The
I
more you
know,
know.
I know the
right?
Land Before
You're
Time
welcome.
games, of course, but not the other stuff. Like I'm over here scratching my head, like I never heard of these games, but you're probably like sitting there in your computer when you were a small bean playing these games, and Jesus, one of those bulky big computers that don't even exist anymore.
Here is an answer from one of our listeners, Kobe iOS. Serious Sam is a game that they remember fondly. I vaguely remember the game. I looked it up right now, and I was like, wait a minute, I remember this game. I got my tail kicked in it a lot. That's why I probably erased it from my memories because how embarrassingly bad I was in the game. It was funny because I was pretty good with GoldenEye and what was it called and Perfect Dark as well as Turok, but I did not get good with first person shooters on a PC till oh my god, like the last 10 years, and that's because again I got used to playing first persons on consoles, and that transition for me was not so good.
Huh. I can't imagine living without a mouse
Same here. If
for
I can
first
keep
person
mine
shooters.
attached to my hip, I'd be great. We have a question from the audience. Let's pull it up. I'll go first if you all don't mind. And Kobe, to answer your question, from my view, hell no, no. Life is short, yes, but I think games are a great outlet for stress, a great way to not just burn time, but just enjoy yourself and find some fulfillment and adventure that you wouldn't normally see in your life, right? I play zombie games because I'm sure I'm not going to be able to shoot a zombie, but I can do it in a game like Left 4 Dead or Dying Light.
For my answer, I think something more my mom would tell me. It's like, why waste all these hours like on the computer playing PC games, talking with people that don't
I
exist because they're online.
I am so blessed to be part of a family that was raised like playing World of Warcraft and stuff like that. Now that I remember,
Yeah.
Warcraft was one of my very first PC games. One of my first. So,
There you go.
yep.
And yes, we were a gaming family from the very beginning, Catnip. We enjoyed every
Dang,
light of it.
dang, those exist.
Yeah, but
All
what?
right, we're
Gaming
bringing in
families?
our fourth guest. Welcome, Scrumpet.
I am so sorry
Scrumplet.
for the delay.
Oh,
It's
Scrumpet.
all
You're
right.
okay.
Scrumplet,
It's
yeah.
it's good to have you, Scrumplet. We are actually
Scrumplet's a Twitch
talking.
gamer.
Really? Well, I'm happy to have you. We were just answering an interesting question. I'm gonna put it up on the chat right now for everyone. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, I can see it. you guys
All
ever
right,
just
well-
sit and think, dang, I waste all these hours playing games, I'm going to die one day? Have you guys already answered it?
Yeah.
Okay. For my answer, I would say yes and no. I have obviously put in a lot of time for games, but for me, at least when I was younger, I kind of had an excuse to stay inside. I was sick a lot, had a lot of problems with asthma and stuff like that. So going out and playing and doing stuff like that was not always the easiest. So for me, not a lot of hours were quote unquote wasted. Now that I'm an adult, maybe so, but I feel like I balance it out enough, and I like seeing what people make. I like seeing games. Games are cool and good. Is that a good answer?
Yes.
That was a beautiful
Thank you.
answer.
Thank you very much.
Oh no, that was great. To be
Yeah.
honest with you. Why I keep bringing that up?
Scrublet on stream has actually been playing
Agree.
Banjo-Kazooie, so that's a classic. That was on the Nintendo 64.
What? I have not heard that title in forever.
Yeah. It's
That is
funny
awesome.
because Banjo was one of those games that I missed that kind of flew under the radar for me. I played Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, a lot of the quote-unquote classics, but rare games were ones that I hadn't had the chance to play. So coming at Banjo as an adult, not when that game was sort of first coming out and in its prime, I was still blown away by it. And I was like, this is the kind of game that I would play through 100%, beat the whole thing, and want to play another game just like it immediately after. I think there's something about the like collectathon platformer that it just, at least for me, is very attractive as a type of game, and Banjo just nails that really nicely.
You know, that's interesting. If you like that, have you played Donkey Kong Country for the N64?
You're saying Donkey Kong 64 or Donkey Kong Country? Because
Country.
Donkey Kong Country was SNES, I think, right?
Oh, I think okay. So Donkey Kong 64 then.
Okay, so DK64,
That's fun.
I
That's
do
fun.
have
Yeah,
experience
that-
with. That game I actually feel the opposite way about, because I've played that on I did a recorded series with a friend a couple years back, and as far as like collectibles go, that game is ridiculous. Like there is so much that's packed into it, and so much that you have to do, and then you got to swap in and out with the different characters. And by the time we got to the end of the series, we were all like, do we want to find a way to like glitch into the final boss, because we don't want to collect anything else? Like this is a lot.
It was exhausting, huh?
Yeah, very very very
My brother-
exhausting.
My brother 100%ed that game. Don't know how he
Yes,
did,
Holy
but
shit!
he did.
Oh yeah,
He did.
I should ask, is cursing allowed?
Yeah, you're fine. I don't give a shit.
Oh, cool. Okay, I can say the fuck word.
Yeah, what the fuck? I don't think anyone's really...
That's legitimately impressive. That is a very difficult game to 100%, and the amount of hours that you've got to put into that to accomplish that is just
Man,
madness.
my brother like 100% like almost every N64 game, and I'm just over here like, how?
dedication. I've seen him do it back in the day, and it was impressive to watch him just destroy those games. Like that right there is a person that you put in front of a brand new product, and they will let you know what's wrong with it, how to improve it real quick by the way they play it.
I mean, that's good for game testing, honestly.
Oh yeah, I agree. Scrumper, I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit. I am very curious about your first gaming system and your favorite retro system.
Oh, man, that's a great question. Thank you very much. My first gaming system, if I'm not mistaken, was the Nintendo 64, because I was born in 1994. So unfortunately, I missed out on, the classic NES and the SNES, and Sega Genesis, all that stuff. So very much grew up as a Nintendo kid, and I want to say one of the first games that I played was probably the first Super Smash Brothers, and then like Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64.
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask I didn't play as much. I think we rented it one time, and then kind of went from there. But I would say, as far as retro, if you're talking about older than N64, I'd have to go with the NES, because you have so many beautiful classics on that system. You've got Super Metroid, what is it? A Link to the Past, which, I mean, that game so beautifully nails like what Zelda was supposed to be early on, and what people really loved about Zelda. Super Mario World, I think it was. Yeah, Super Mario World, which people rave up and down about, but I didn't get the chance to play those games until they were re-released on other consoles later, and then along with the N64. Not too much later, the PS1 came out, and that's what got me into a lot of Sony properties like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and then my favorite game of all time, which is the Tomba series, Tomba 1 and Tomba 2, which, if you guys don't know, beautiful, amazing platformer games for the PS1. Unfortunately, they've kind of fallen into obscurity, but if you ever get the chance to look them up or play them, highly, highly recommended.
I remember the Tomba series pretty well, and unfortunately they did fall back, kind of like Twisted Metal and Legend of the Jungle. And you have a lot of amazing franchises and titles that they kind of got stuck in the 90s, and they haven't had an opportunity to reemerge as of late.
Yeah.
One of our listeners actually brought up Sega. This is the first person's mentioned Sega, unfortunately. I believe you're talking about this 16-bit
Cinder.
system. Cinder?
Hi, Cinder.
You're talking about the one with the one that competed with the Super Nintendo, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I didn't know a lot of people who had Sega. There's you had Sonic, you had Altered Beast, you had a lot of really great games in that system.
Yeah,
but
there is such a huge, like, ravenous support that people have for Sega and old Sega systems, to the point where it actually was a part of their old advertisements, because back then everything was about sort of the bit wars. So you have the Nintendo 64, which, for those who don't know, is because of the bit rate of the console, if I'm not mistaken. And Sega would always compare, or I don't think it was just Sega, but there were commercials that would come out that would compare the bit rates of consoles. There was that whole tagline of, like, Sega does what Nintendo don't, and it was such a strong rivalry, and kids would, like, legitimately make fun of each other for the systems that they liked. And most of the kids who had Sega systems would look at Nintendo players and go, "Oh man, you like Mario? That's for little babies. That's dumb. I like Sonic because he's cool and he goes fast." Like,
I remember that too. And the Sega system had Double Dragon. You had more mature titles attached to it.
Yeah.
And I remember we didn't have a chance to kind of get into this. So I remember the Sega Saturn very well. It was trying to compete against the PlayStation 1, but it felt like it fell into the same trap that the Dreamcast fell into, which it had the hardware, but it did not have enough of the software to go along with it.
Yeah, nobody wanted to make games for them.
I do want to bring up some controversial games that I really enjoy and that I miss Nintendo would do. I really fucking loved Conker's Bad Fur Day. Don't ask me.
Yes.
But it was such a good game. It was. I was replaying it on. They actually released like this amazing retro reload thing for the Xbox One for like their anniversary, which was an updated graphics version of Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yep.
And Conker's Bad Fur Day is one of those games that it's like big titty sunflowers and
Let me write this in my notes real fast.
It's so wrong. It's
so wrong. I can't really explain it. Scrumplet, since you know it as well, please.
Oh, yeah. So, Conker was really interesting because that's another Rare game. And unfortunately, Rare is no longer really affiliated with Nintendo. They're owned by Microsoft. So, it's part of the reason that you don't see a lot of stuff pertaining to Banjo or Conker or Perfect Dark or any of those titles now. which is a shame because they're all amazing properties. But with Conquer, if I'm not mistaken, it was in development for a long, long time. I think almost before Banjo, if I'm not mistaken. This is just kind of like basic knowledge. There's people who know way more than I do. But it was going to just be another standard platformer, another cutesy character. And they had brought somebody on the team who was just like, why not get weird with it? Why not like make a game for adults? And so they kind of took that whole cartoony aesthetic. Almost it gives me Roger Rabbit vibes occasionally. With
Yeah, like one of your main mechanisms on the game is like you're in this bar because there's a bar, and you're like going through it, and you have to get drunk so you could pee on this guy with big brass balls, and to like he was a boss. And
he was a boiler. He was a
Yeah, he was a
boiler, and you had
boiler.
to pee on him. Yeah.
yeah, and you have to like drink alcohol, get like really loaded, and then pee on him.
Whoever was the writer for the game or the team of writers, they had an amazing time coming up with that.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
sounds fun.
All of those
Those sound
guys
fun.
were so just like weird and raunchy, and it you could see it in even the more child-friendly games that they had done. Like if you look back on some of the stuff in Banjo and you kind of read between the lines, there's a lot of surprising stuff there.
Especially the cogs. The cogs were so great in Conquer's Bad Fur Day. Do you remember the cogs?
I do remember them.
It was so messed up, but it was so funny because
Everything's horny in that game.
yeah, really,
But,
it was great.
It was one of a long line of games that would that would do that, like Colonel Custard's Revenge in the NES. That was very controversial. If you ever want to see something really messed up, YouTube that. The gameplay is really it is the level of Leisure Suit Larry that didn't come out to like Xbox, but it was pretty funny to watch.
It was
Conquer's Bad
straight
Fur
up
Day.
one of the first porn games. And I don't mean that lightly because it was 8-bit, but there was full nudity. Like he had a straight up dick. It was pixely and weird, but it was a dick.
And it was chasing you. Like
It was, and you had to
you're-
go
Where can I
away.
buy this game?
I don't know.
If anyone
I don't
knows
know
where
if
to
they
get
even
it,
would
link it in
sell
the
it
chat.
now.
You know what?
I guarantee
Um,
there's probably a ROM or something online.
I've never
that you can
seen
find.
it.
There's got to be.
And I never thought games like that
Well,
exist.
I
Because I only saw Conquer's Bad Fur Day, and they even had like with the cogs, they had the cogs were like going help me because they didn't want to go back, and it was like you had to push the cogs onto this other cog because like oh fuck yeah, and it's like syndicating like a blowjob, and it's really funny. But then
That's right.
and then
Yeah.
and then they grabbed the cog off.
Wow.
The three lady cogs grabbed the cog off and then put him on this giant cog that's a male, and then it switches to like a gay side because it was a double-sided cog. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I really like this. Thank you for the pleasure." And I'm just over here like, "There's games like this that existed."
Yeah.
you know what? It's not. To be honest with you, go back and watch Nickelodeon shows from the '90s, and there's a crap ton of like innuendo in them where I remember rewatching Rocko's Modern Life like 10, 20 years after the fact, and
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
holy shit, they put in so many things in there. Like it was surprising. Or even Ren and Stimpy. Like I didn't understand.
Oh,
it growing
Ren and
up as a
Stimpy was one of the worst with
kid. I
it.
was born in the late '80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I watched it in the first run. I was like 9, 8 years old. I started watching again in my 20s and in both my 20s and 30s, and I was like, holy shit, how the hell did this make it on air?
It's
was,
it's
like,
funny because we
totally
were
graphic, but
we were talking about something on my stream recently because I've been replaying through some old PS2 classics, one of which is the Ratchet and Clank series. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the series, the writing in that game, you can tell that it is a kid's game, but so many of the undertones and the jokes are meant for adults. And so you can replay those years later and finally understand some of the suggestions that they were making. But what I find very interesting is Ratchet and Clank is one of the only series that continued after the PS2 era, continued into PS3, PS4, PS5. And with that, the humor also seemed to change, at least from my experience and what I've seen. They sort of got rid of a lot of the more adult suggestive jokes and went stuff that would be more funny and more simple to children. And it's a little frustrating to see because it's like, what's the point of doing that? Like, why would you take something that was so charming and so well done originally and get rid of that to just be safe and friendly?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of elements of the old Looney Tunes cartoons that they won't do now because it was layered as you described, Scrumpet, where there was fun for kids, they got a story, but also there was a lot of stuff
Pepe Le Pew.
for the adults to enjoy that the kids weren't going to get. It'd go right over their head, right? Because they're kids, they're innocent. But nowadays, from some friends that I know who work and write professionally, they are pressured heavily to make it simpler, but also play it very safe. Some of it is because of the concern of certain markets overseas that are very censor heavy, and they don't want to risk that games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's worked its way into gaming as a whole. I feel like there's a first-person shooter series that came out for the PS2 called Time Splitters, and I don't know if that rings a bell to you at all, but it was a series developed by some ex-Rare employees. So I think part of them had split off, started their own group, and started continuing with making shooter games. And the first and second feel a lot like GoldenEye for the N64, which is a very good thing. But they were super quirky and weird. And the story seemed to come second to the gameplay and the variety, because you can tell that the developers looked at what they had as a base and went, what weird shit can we put in this? So you've got a first-person shooter game that has hundreds of characters, including like a giant tittied bipedal bunny, a gingerbread man, a walking duck, zombies, cyborgs, robots, just all sorts of weird, crazy shit. And you had 3 games in this series that everyone who's played them absolutely adores. There's a huge fan base for this game. But once you started moving out of the PS2 era and into a newer generation of gaming, it got to the point where people didn't know how to sell that anymore. And when, okay, well, new shooter games are like, Halo and Call of Duty, which are very, very cohesive and very specific in their theme. In that kind of gaming environment, how the fuck do you put in this game that's got all of these different wild elements that has no idea what it wants to be in the best way possible? How do you sell that? And so the series died for a while, and only recently have the developers for that series actually reformed and have said, okay, we're gonna make a new Time Splitters game. Sorry, I know that was very long-winded, but it's just, I feel like that happens to a lot of games and series now, and it's frustrating to watch.
That's kind of what
People are
happened to the
afraid
Fable
to
series.
experiment. Like,
Yeah, that's what
people,
happened to the Fable series. Like when they experimented and did the whole king queen thing, people were so against it, and I was like, it's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. And the team, like after Fable 3, the Lionhead Studios unfortunately closed, and they're now coming back with a different studio for the whole entire Fable series. But I think they're gonna just like recon the whole entire series because people hated that. Like in the third series, in like the first game, it was like, oh, this wonderful magic area. You know, we don't have guns or anything like that. In the second game, it was like, oh, well, we're gonna be in the semi-industrial era, and then third game, it's like full force industrial era almost towards like the end of the industrial era, and it was so fun to play, and it was just this whimsical, amazing game, and I don't understand why so many people hated it when I think they took a good leap into doing these. I think the time jumps were not. They could have been more cohesive, but I think it was a risk that they took, and I think it personally paid off because it was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that because. Oh, sorry, no, go for it. I'm doing a lot of talking.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Jack and Daxter. Oh, I think we're on a delay. Sorry.
Yeah, we're on a delay. It's okay.
Okay, that makes sense. You go for it then. Go for it.
All right, I was gonna say, kind of, that's a really good point that you made there, and it kind of brings me to a question for everyone. You know, you remember and we reminisce about some of our favorite games from olden days, and I like to ask everyone here on the chat, what's the first game you can remember actually finishing 100%?
Jesus.
That's a tough one. That's really hard.
I don't think we had games 2,000 years ago.
God, I don't really remember because I never Tyler finished. My brother Tyler always finished like the games for me, and like every time it was hard because of save files because my father would come home from all this military garbage and he would play on these systems. So there was only be like 2 save files back in the day with a bunch of these systems, and it would always be my brother and then my father. So I never personally finished a lot of games to more than I grew up in life, and I believe one of the games that I finished 100%, got everything for, was Alice Madness Returns because I really liked it. And I think it's one of those unique games that had a huge dark undertone that didn't get a lot of credit that it deserved.
Those games are very underrated, I would say.
It was
for
so
me,
whimsical.
That was a good choice.
a very basic one. I think if we're talking just the very first one, not like the most impactful, first was, I think, the original Super Smash Brothers, because all you had to do was unlock a couple of characters in a stage, and then that was it. You completed it, which is a really boring answer, but yeah, there you go.
That's all.
Actually, I actually have to change my answer because I just remembered something. More flashbacks. The first game that I actually ever completed was the BioShock series. It was the second one.
Interesting. How about you, Milk? Do you have any memories of your very first one that you slayed?
That one's hard because I can only think of recent games. Can't think of any retro games because I think the more games go on, the more bonus content is added. So if you're not really fully dedicated, tons of games can be left wide open. But I do love storytelling games like JRPGs or what is it? It's definitely not retro, but Beyond Two Souls. What is it? Detroit something. Like the storytelling games I really like. So I can say I have completed Beyond Two Souls since there's not tons of bonus content in that, but
Interesting.
Beyond Two
That's
Souls
good.
was a really good
It's
game.
all right. I gotta play it. I definitely have to go out, take my time and play. I've been stuck on Dead by Daylight for like a billion years, but I will date myself. What does that sound?
not me.
Were we being haunted?
Someone's not
I
fussing
will
up.
give you my answer right now. Mario 2 for the NES system. It's a wild game. It kind of felt like someone was pretty high in Japan when they made it. That's what made it fun. Because I could not finish the first Mario Brothers game for the NES because I would get pissed after like the third or fourth time when they'd say the princess is another castle and say, the hell with this shit. I'm going to get my ass kicked and Mike Tyson punch out and then get my ass kicked in that game instead for a while. Yeah. My answer would have to be that. Definitely.
I hated those Mario games. Whenever they go, your princess is in another castle, and that stupid ass Toad. I hated him. I wish you could kick him back into the lava.
You leave that beautiful mushroom alone. That mushroom did nothing wrong, and you can saute them. There are people that you can saute. You leave
You
them
can't
alone.
eat him.
Oh my god.
I mean,
So-
Creepypasta
Christ.
Mario.
who wouldn't want a friend that you could in Jeffrey Dahmer? I mean, come on now. That's like the perfect
Oh my
friendship
God.
right there.
Holy
You
So
can
my-
hang out with them. You can eat them, right? Or somewhere in between. It's a great friendship. You get hungry one day, you get your buddy next to you that helps you out.
Mhm. So my question is, since it's been like maybe 20 years since a bunch of these systems has come out, maybe even less for some of these, what would you consider a retro system now? Considering like the Wii came out, the Wii U, we have the
Oh.
Xbox. What would you
That's a
consider
hard
a retro
question.
system?
Something that you could put in a Sif Wave background, I guess.
I think retro sort of has to do with generation. I think it's a pretty tough thing to define at times because, I mean, we could probably get to the point with our history where someone looks at the Xbox 360 and calls that retro, and the day that that happens, I'll want to fucking die. But like for me personally, being born in '94, retro to me is N64, PS1, and everything before that. That in my mind is
Welcome-
retro.
Scrumpet, welcome to my world, because that's exactly how I feel when someone says the Wii's retro. I just want to choke them with the
Exactly.
cords.
But
The Wii does
the
not
Wii is
feel
kinda
retro to me at all.
now. It kind of feels retro to me.
I'll remember that next time I make dinner. Just saying. No, but okay, you know, that's a good question, and I have to agree with you, Scrum. But I think it's based off the perception of the generation asking the question, right? I look at music like Nirvana, Alice in Chains from the '90s, right? That sort of that sort of punk rock music, the alternative music, the grunge, and that doesn't seem like it's retro to me. But I put it on the oldie station here while I'm driving, and lo and behold, I hear Nirvana, I hear Alice in Chains, and I want to put my fist through the radio because I'm like, well, fuck you guys, that's not retro. But yeah, I
You know
think
what?
you're right. It definitely it's the perception of each generation.
Like me
Exactly.
and Milk recently have been going through Dead Island, and I consider that retro or more of a kind of a classic because it came out in 2009. It's now what? How many years? 13
11 now.
years since that game has been out. 2009.
13?
We're in like 2021.
Oh, you're right. Okay, 12 years. Hey, give me each number
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So I consider games that are like 10 years and older retro now to me because I feel like, you know.
You know what? Remind me to buy a dictionary for your next birthday. That nonsense.
Whenever I hear
That's so
retro, I
weak.
think of like I don't know what Space Invaders, like, you know, the arcades where you had to go to the arcade to play them because of a
Thank
game
you.
design
But-
nature. Yeah.
But in arcades are doing new games like Fruit Ninja. Is Fruit Ninja now retro? Because it's in an arcade.
No.
You
It's in an
know what?
arcade.
You little obtuse anime lady. You know what Milk's talking about.
I do, but you know, if it's in
What-
an arcade, so
All right. You know what? Your new name is not Catnip. I'm gonna change it to Technicality because you're just holding on to
Who
technicalities.
knows? Maybe someone Fruit Ninja's gonna be retro, but I don't know if I'm gonna be alive for that. But yeah, I see retro games as like
The
the
second-
old stuff that, you know, my game design professors talk about because I feel like those earn the title of retro because, you know, I respect that and respect them.
The second that Fruit Ninjas or any mobile game is considered retro, I'm gonna stick myself on a rocket ship and just like go out to outer space.
Oh, there it
I'm,
goes.
I'm done with this planet. No way. I won't be able to my ego won't be able to handle it.
So, what about games that are made to look retro though? Like, let's say Minecraft, since I've been playing that a lot recently with
I
Scrumplet.
love
That's a game.
Cuphead.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Cuphead. Cuphead's yeah.
Well, Minecraft wouldn't be my example, and Cuphead wouldn't even be either, because Cuphead isn't made to be retro in the sense of retro games. Cuphead is meant to emulate something entirely different, which is like old school original animation. That in itself is fucking nuts, and that game is a masterpiece. Just visually.
Which they're making a Netflix series of now, Cuphead.
Are they really? Holy shit.
I put it in your server. You don't remember?
No, I
Yeah, Netflix is
really
eating
don't.
everything up.
Yeah, they're
but
really making
one
one.
great example that I have is there is a game being worked on right now. It's I believe there's a Kickstarter for it. I don't know if the Kickstarter is still up, but it did surpass it, so development is still going. It's a game called Double Shake, and it
I remember.
perfectly emulates the style and design of Tomba, Mischief Makers, and like a bunch of other shit from the PS1. And I've played a demo of it. I've played multiple demos actually. And dear God, I'm giddy playing it. Because it combines 2D sprites with 3D environments like a lot of games did back then. And you feel like you're right back in the 90s. Like it feels no different than those games that came out back then. And so I love, because there's so many times I think recently where I'm like so worried that we're gonna lose a style or vibe of game, and that's just never gonna happen again because of how games are updating. But so many indie developers are looking back fondly on games that they played and going, okay, I want to make that. Like I know that we're capable of making more than that right now, but I don't care. I want to make that. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean, and I linked the game on Steam on the chat for everyone so they can see it for themselves. And I was looking at some of the photos, Scrumpet, and you're absolutely right. That totally reminds me of Mario 64. The aesthetics, everything, even the way the hearts look, it looks like it really takes away from that game, which makes it look super enjoyable. And it looks like it's going to come out in what 2022, 6 months.
Honestly, most of my favorite games are unrated RPG horror games, and like the pixel horrors. I really like those kinds of games, and even though they look so old-fashioned, they're like some of my favorite games, like Misao, Mad Father. There's a Butcher around. They're made to look like older games, but they're so fun. I prefer them over games like I'm gonna get so much shit for this. Call of Duty and Modern Warfare and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's all good. You know what? I'm glad you brought those up because Scrumpet, here's a game that I've played a couple times on Steam. It's called Arcade Moonlander, and it reminds me of there was a game way back in the day where you'd have to land your equipment on the ground. So it was kind of like Space Invaders in reverse. And that's what it reminds me of, the same aesthetic, the same look of it. And I thought it was really cool. And to your point, Catnip, about old horror games, nothing in my mind beats Praying for the PlayStation. I love the hell out of that game, and I miss it. I wish that they would give it the treatment that they gave the first two Resident Evil games, because I think it would be a hit.
Yep.
I'd played Castlevania, but when I was younger, I was kind of freaked out by it.
But that was the fun part, right? You play the game, shit yourself a little bit, move on. I mean, it was a really great experience. You got your money's worth. Not for the laundry, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Let's see. Anyone tired yet? Or do you guys... let me see what we got. Actually, I have one more topic. Did we touch everyone's favorite retro games? I think we did, right?
I think so.
Not milk. Not milk.
Oh.
Milk.
My favorite retro.
Information.
I have to give a title. Mm, can't think of anything off the top of my head. I feel like
You
there's
said you
one in
loved
there
that
somewhere.
one game. That one game
Which
that
one?
your mom didn't like you playing because you had to kill the
Oh, the
buffalo and
Oregon
stuff.
Trail. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll
Oh,
definitely put the Oregon Trail forward as my trump card.
you know
You're
that is
welcome.
fair. And now that you mentioned it, Milk, I'm going to attempt to die of scurvy because I always died of um. Now that's my new game, my new
Of the
goal
intensive
game.
shitting disease.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong for a little bit of poop death, right?
All right. Well, all right. We'll trade. You die of scurvy, and I'll die of the poop death. It's a fair deal.
There you go. You let me know how that goes, all right? I mean, the burning hurts, but I think it would be fun.
Okay. I'll send you a postcard.
Oh God, don't write it in the poop.
Oh no! They gave me an idea
No,
now.
the postcard has like a roll of toilet paper and it says, "We wish you were here."
Oh,
Oh
dude.
my god. We're actually playing on this idea.
Oh man, I'm gonna throw myself off a mountain.
It's okay. I'll attach
And
like
still not.
$25. It'll call even.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, it's funny that y'all were bringing up some of those games. And I think it was you, Scrump, that you mentioned Perfect Dark. Weren't they making a new Perfect Dark game? I could have sworn I saw a teaser a few weeks ago, right?
Are they? I have no idea. Hold on. Let me look this up.
You know what? On this topic of like remakes and stuff like that, I'm not really feeling that they're doing a crossover between Scooby Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog. They just released the trailer today. I was pretty upset about it.
They're both dogs, and that's it. They're both dogs, and that's it.
Holy shit! Perfect
That's
Dark
the crossover nobody asked for and nobody wanted.
Yep, I found it. Perfect Dark. It was announced back in
Wow,
December.
that's cool.
Yeah, the initiative will be coming out sometime in a billion years. Here, I'm gonna link
You know
the
what?
article
That's awesome.
for everyone.
That's one of the
That's
games
gonna be
me
fun.
and
I
my
mean,
brother played a lot together. It was really fun.
and it sucked because not that it sucked. It just sucked that it was one of those games that, like you mentioned, Scrumpet, that it got lost in translation over time. And was not. It had a very difficult time jumping from console to console like other franchises. And to me, it was one of those games that definitely could have, if given the chance, like Halo or like the Final Fantasy series, where it can move on from console to console as they were upgraded and come out with a lot of good content. And I really hope they address it and they don't let the franchise kind of
They
wither there.
they made one for the
Hmm.
Xbox 360, and I honestly hated it. That Perfect Dark. It didn't have the charm that it used to, and I don't know. Maybe I am
Wasn't it
just
just a
huge
remake
stan.
of the 64 game?
Nope, they actually did in the retro reload that you could get the bundle on the Xbox One. You could actually get the OG Perfect Dark, and with like updated graphics and stuff like that. But no, they made like this actual like Perfect Dark game for the Xbox 360, and I hated it. It didn't have the charm. It didn't feel right to me. It just it kind of felt like
No, I got you.
a spy game that was just so it was just so dumb to me. I like the charm of 64 because you had like the aliens, you had the rest of the aliens, and you had all this weird shit going on. It was fun.
I like weird shit. Who doesn't like weird shit? If I didn't like weird shit, I wouldn't be a Star Trek fan.
Yep. And people are afraid
Star
to get
Wars.
weird now. That's the whole reason people so much love like the PS1 to PS2, N64 to GameCube era of gaming is because there was so much experimentation. You had developers who were just throwing so much at the wall to see what sticked, and you had a lot of things that didn't make it. But that was the time of like video game rentals and going to Blockbuster and being like, okay, what's this random game on the wall? Or like going to swap meets and seeing all these
Pretty much.
weird off-brand games on the wall. I would do that shit with my dad. Like every weekend we were with each other, we would go to those kind of places and just look for weird games. And it was such a cool time. And that doesn't happen anymore.
You wouldn't get a prepper to rapper nowadays.
Oh my
So,
god,
you know,
parappa
you
the
have
rapper.
like
Yes. Check and turn the
how
signals to the
wild,
right.
right? I mean, that was such a wild game. You can tell they were a little
They
up
were
there
on
in
an
their
acid trip. I'm
atmosphere.
just saying. Yeah, they were on an
I was trying to
acid
be
trip. You
nice
can't
about
tell
it.
me.
But
I'm
you,
not.
they're not
They
going to
were
make
on an
something like
acid
that
trip.
now, right? You know what else would have been
Um,
great if they, what's it called, Dance Dance Revolution, bring that sucker back. And now with the new technology,
Dude,
we
I
have the
love
state.
that.
That was such a great game, right?
I had it for the
yeah,
Wii with the mats and
I think
everything.
we
we
did
still have the
too. We
mats for
recently threw out our
the
pads.
Xbox. Yeah, and that's a hell of a
Ancients.
cardio. I mean, you wanna sweat off the butter from your body, get some Dance Dance Revolution on. The best part is no one's gonna see you looking like you're having a seizure while you're attempting to get rhythm.
Dancing in your own butter. The slip and slide.
Get off your butter.
Oh man, that was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
right. They don't experiment like they would today. Again, it's very sanitized, very safe, and I blame a lot of it honestly is that they want to hit a certain market outside of the West that's very sensor happy, and they don't want to do anything that would upset those sensors. I mean, look, even World of Warcraft had servers specifically for that market that didn't have
Hmm.
blood, that had the undead aesthetic toned down a little bit. And Ken, if you remember, you played World of Warcraft a lot, like I did. I don't know about Scrumpet or you, Milk, but the
Nope.
undead, the Forsaken in that game are not terrifying zombies,
Yeah.
especially when you look at other
No,
media and other movies and whatnot.
they
They're very
were
toned down already to begin with.
honestly. I think the
And
most scariest race in the World of Warcraft game was probably the ones that had the mana, that ate the mana and stuff like that. They're like all withered and stuff like that. And they had that really bad
oh, the
addiction to
withered,
the mana that they were going batshit.
yeah,
Yeah, those
yeah,
guys
yeah,
were
yeah.
fucking terrifying.
But yeah, I mean that's part of the reason a lot of these companies like they've gotten so large, right? You don't have these little studios with like 10 people in them now that they will
Yeah,
just burn through 6 months and make a hell of a fight game. Now you have these corporate entities that make games, but they have staff on them like, no, we can't do this and we can't do that. We have to kind of stamp a lot of that creativity away because we don't want people in certain areas of the planet get angry with us or not wanting to buy the game, and it kind of leaves the rest of us here who follow these franchises, who own these consoles, who are just gamers in general, lacking in good libraries, good software. Where we kind of buy a game and we're like, well, this is kind of disappointing. It could have been better.
Do you think at all that there could be some kind of invention where there's like a community friendly console, and so startup companies or something like that could make games for that could be weird and it wouldn't have to be marketed elsewhere.
I mean, honestly, I think Steam does a pretty good job, and Epic Games are probably the two best places to do that for creators. I mean, I know Scrumpy, you mentioned you mentioned the game Double Shake that had a
Mhm.
Indiegogo that went on to get it funded. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this game, but Lust for Darkness. When I was a writer for a comic book website, I interviewed the creator of that game, one of the developers, I believe, and now it's a popular franchise. Well, I mean, it's semi-popular. I'm not saying it's huge, but it's also quite graphic. It's not something that you could the major studio tackled like Agony. Agony's the same thing too. Most major studios wouldn't tackle a horror game that is that graphic. They would shy away from it because they don't want certain ratings or they don't want to blacklist certain potential customers. But I think platforms as you brought up, Milk, like Steam, and Epic Games do for video games what Amazon and other platforms do for authors and indie writers. It gives you a place to put your product, and hopefully you strike gold with it.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Lust for Darkness, I actually played the sequel, which is was it Lust from Beyond? Or well, I played the demo for
How
it and actually buy it.
how was it?
It's very much like the Agony, and freaked me out a bit,
uh,
but it's pretty all right so far, at least the demo.
then it did its job.
I don't really play horror games, so I was playing it with
Oh,
friends.
I love horror games. You
you
can't
played
get
you
you
played
can't
Lilah
stop
with
me.
me.
Okay, that's true, but that's like actiony zombie stuff. Like stuff like Amnesia, Dark Descent. Oh, ugh.
Oh my god, the custom
Good,
maps for
good,
Amnesia
but
are
ugh.
so magical. Like I used to watch PewDiePie play them, the OG ones. Like especially like the ones they would make for him. They were so funny and so gory. I miss him so much. OG PewDiePie.
Yeah, I love
All right,
Steam. I always use Steam.
Alrighty, we're coming up at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. About 1 hour and 15 minutes into the podcast, I'm gonna try to wrap this up because I don't want to steal your evenings from everyone here. So let's close out. Let's go around the round table and let's close out on some fond memories of some consoles or some games that we could remember that helped us escape into the weekend away from school. Let's go first.
Mm, I guess I will.
Mm.
I think my fondest memory was probably playing. I think it was either Castlevania or it was Majora's Mask, and I was just playing the game and enjoying my time. I really liked those kinds of games because they had that certain charm to them, and they were just so fun to come home from a hard day of school and people and kids being mean and stuff, and just playing those kinds of consoles was like my escape.
I totally feel you. It's not like we could dip them in acid. Unfortunately, the authorities get a little sensitive about those sort of things.
For me,
Alright,
I can't
Scrumpet or Milk?
remember. Oh, okay. I guess I stole it anyway. But for me, I guess it's for Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, definitely. Yeah.
Sorry, just
good
remind me,
choice.
what was the question?
All right. Well, we're closing out, and I wanted to ask everyone: can they remember one particular game from back in their day? Doesn't have to be back in the day in general, but back in your day, that helped you kind of detach from school and helped you to ride into the weekend.
I don't know that there's any specific game that I did that with, but there was always a couple that I rotated through, and I would say a lot of it were the PS2 classics like Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and then Time Splitters. Once I started getting into that, those were all the ones that I kind of regularly went back to.
Nice. All right, I'm gonna hit the way back machine a little bit, and I will have to say the original Legend of Zelda game on the NES. I remember moving around a lot due to being a kid in a military household. So as you imagine, you'd move about every year or so, and it wasn't wonderful for building friendships. So I'd get some friends and lose them pretty quick as we moved around. But one thing I did enjoy doing was playing Legend of Zelda and just kind of getting lost in the Hyrule, and that helped ease me out of problems with school in general, or just human beings. So that would have to be my title. Alrighty, so let's move let's move on to what you guys want to push. What are you all doing? Do you want to advertise something? Do you want the listeners, viewers to find you? Let's go on. Who wants to go first? Oh, I know someone's doing something that you want to show off. Come on now.
It's like I don't want to go first. I'm the guest here. Catnip, Milk. Do you guys have
I
anything?
too am, I guess, but this is actually my first podcast ever, so do I want to advertise anything?
And you know, you
Milk is a great artist.
Okay, that's true. I am a great artist, but
Yeah,
my art doesn't pertain to the topic at hand, which is retro games. I do a lot of like anime. I do a lot of anime content. So I guess
you know what?
you can.
I'm gonna
Plug yourself in, Milk.
Go
Do
ahead.
it. Plug in.
Oh,
come
okay.
on, plug it. Plug your
Sure.
stuff. Come on.
Okay. Here's my business card. Go look at Milkmaid Artist on Tumblr, Twitter. I do a lot of ultimate fan art, anime stuff, a lot of romance anime stuff. So check me out, yo.
Awesome. Don't forget to check out Milk. Look up Milkmaid on Tumblr and Twitter. You said right, Milk.
Either will do.
And enjoy the art. If it's anything like the avatar you got on, I'm sure it is pretty kick-ass. I envy
No,
artists,
this
and I'm
is-
not going to lie to you.
This
I
is from Google
automatically dislike you
Sensei.
just for this fact. Well, if you're an artist, I automatically dislike you for the fact that you have a talent that I envy. So it's okay. I hope that everyone looks at your stuff and enjoys it.
I tell people I came out of the womb with a pen and pencil, so
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, Catnip, you're
Yes,
next. Scrumpet, you'll go last since
Yeah.
you're the second guest. But Catnip, I want you to kind of plug what you want to plug.
I don't have anything to plug.
All right, so Catnip plugs herself. You can follow us here at Let's Chat.
I plugged myself out.
We
Wow.
she will be she'll be part of this podcast every week. Come back every Wednesday around 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and we'll just
Maybe you'll
gonna
see
talk
me
about
some
random stuff,
nerds
and
back.
eventually it'll be fun. I'll do my next. I am the Armored Otter. I am a horror writer. I will plug my short stories right now. I'm also working for a website called bellalila.com where you can find some amazing jewelry. And if anyone knows anything about jewelry and being with a partner, buying something shiny when you screw up is likely the best thing you can do to make up to them. So let us make up that fight for you. Go to bellalila.com and find some amazing pieces today and save 15% on your entire order. Scrumpet, you're next.
Yeah, my name is Scrumplet. I do Twitch streaming and music composition. Most of the games that I stream on Twitch are a lot of retro games and some newer stuff. You can find me at twitch.tv/Scrumplet_official. If you want to listen to the music that I do, which is mostly gaming-inspired music, you can find me on SoundCloud at Dakota James Emery Dennis. I don't know if there's a place to put links, but if there is, I will put them.
Hey, hold on. I just got your Twitch. I am about to link it right now. I'm trying to get your SoundCloud. Give me your SoundCloud again, please.
It's Dakota James Emery Dennis. It's literally just my entire name. I have 4 first names. You can blame my parents. It's because my mother wanted to have, she wanted to let me know how angry she was by using each name as an increasing degree of anger. So if you got all
Don't
4,
feel
you knew
bad.
you were fucked.
You know what? It's okay. When my name was done in Spanish, I knew I was the doghouse. All right. I got your Twitch and your SoundCloud right here on the screen. Milk, if you got a link you want me to share, it to me so that way I can put it on the chat for everyone. As for
Okay.
this podcast, I appreciate you all coming today. I hope that you all will join us for future podcasts. Next week's episode, drum roll, I have no fucking idea yet. We'll figure it out. Thank you all for joining us today. This was Let's Chat with the Armored Otter and Catnip. Have a wonderful day and try to stay away from the baddies.